Did Turkish drones play any favorable role for the SUMUD Flotilla, or were they actually somehow supporting the Israeli Navy? Here is some analysis of the situation that is widely understood by analysts looking into it, but I have yet to see this sort of assessment mentioned in mainstream media, mainstream news sources in any meaningful way. So, before we continue, a brief overview of the situation and a reminder that this is now analysis and speculation based on the context and the geopolitical prioritization of regional players like Türkiye and the Israeli state. This is not fact being reported because it's not like that. It's anyway. The SUMUD Flotilla has been intercepted. All but 4 ships, as far as I know, at the time of this recording, have been intercepted by Israeli commandos, deployed by the Israeli Navy, who have been running drills and exercises for a scenario just like this. That's what Israeli news sources have said. They need to prepare, guys. They're facing Greta Thunberg, Nordic warriors out here. The ancestry has Vikings or raiders or something in them. So, you need to be prepared, right? You need to be ready to defend yourself hundreds of miles, or in this case, less than 100 miles, into international waters. Now, you need to take these guys seriously. These civilians on boats with their weapons of mass nutrition, as I've mentioned in previous posts, with their lethal concoctions of chemicals. The rest of the world knows that as baby formula, but maybe dual purpose. Who knows? Who knows what resistance forces might be able to concoct out of baby formula. Now, there has been some talk about advanced drones that Türkiye has deployed. Coming back to the topic after a minute and 40 seconds. Sorry about that. Bayraktar long-range or long-endurance drones capable of flying unrecharged, unrefueled for 24 to 27 hours. And yet the SUMUD Flotilla boats were intercepted after these drones were apparently circling for days over the SUMUD Flotilla boats. So what did Türkiye do? What was the point? What are they, just like those toy planes that you have on cot mobiles or whatever you call them, or over children's little beds? Might as well have been, some are saying. Now, the evidence is hard to find at this moment in time as to what the drones actually did, but here's my analysis based on the context and publicly available information on the Turkish state's stance on the SUMUD and its interception. The Turkish state stance, by the way, is that the interception of the SUMUD Flotilla was illegal, unacceptable, and it was even called a terror attack. The attack on the SUMUD Flotilla was called a terror attack. So very interesting phraseology there, trying to reverse card the usual Western spin and sort of, spinning it. It's like if I said to an Israeli who is attacking me for my views, I say, why are you being anti-Semitic? They'll be like, wait, I thought that's the card I play. Anyway, anyway, the drones may have been there by Turkey to ensure that someone is recording, someone is monitoring. When you're facing a nation that looks at humanitarian law, international law, the way a normal person looks at cobwebs, just something flimsy and annoying to just get out of the way really quickly, right? Well, then you need to keep a damn record of things. Perhaps if the Turkish drones were not monitoring the situation, just a possibility I'm putting out there, perhaps Israel may have used lethal force on some of the passengers. Remember, SUMUD, after all, has people from a wide range of countries. European citizens likely have to be handled with more care by the Israeli borders of these ships than people from, for example, impoverished Muslim states. They can sort of be dealt with much more carelessly. Now, geopolitics dictates that you may be treated differently based on your passport and Israel's relation with your home country. This is a reality. So, Turkish drones likely had the capability to keep track of all the flotilla ships, mark out their current position, where they're going, keep an eye on their crew and their passengers. Now, it's widely been reported that Israel used jamming equipment so that flotilla passengers or flotilla crew members could not live stream beyond a certain point. Their feeds got cut off, meaning the world could not see what went on afterwards. Even then, footage has leaked, footage has slipped through the net, as it were. There's footage that shows Israeli commandos board ships and then they make sure at gunpoint that everyone has their hands where the soldiers can see them. Then they go for the next most deadly weapon on board, the cameras, so the world cannot see what they're up to. Now, Turkish drones, therefore, may have been used to keep eyes and audio on the flotilla for enough time to ensure Israel doesn't try any funny business. If you have another state who has information of where all the flotilla boats are and their trajectories and they're flying overhead, it's hard for an accident to occur. It would not at all be, for example, unreasonable to worry that some of the flotilla might have crashed or sunk or disappeared due to unknown causes, quotation marks. And by unknown causes, I mean Israel may have pulled off some unspeakable madness. They're very well versed now in pulling off unspeakable madness, case in point, Gaza. And now, geopolitically, it would serve Israel quite well. Analytically, I'm just saying, it would serve them quite well if they could do something where boats just go missing, or like, whoops, I don't know what happened there. Well, it seems to have sunk. I didn't. It would serve them quite well, as it would deter future flotilla attempts. If people think they're setting sail and they're coming back, then they, to prove a point, to make a statement, to try and shift international sentiment, they might jump on a flotilla boat. But if there's a chance they might enter some sort of Bermuda Triangle, the promised triangle, disappear, never to be seen again. God's chosen patch of the Eastern Mediterranean, far, far fewer people will sign up to that kind of risk and try to break Israel's naval blockade. They'll be like, whoa, ships are going missing? Well, no thanks. I can't, I've got family, I've got a life to live. But Israel cannot do something like that, accidentally cutting off all communication and then sinking a ship or two. They haven't done this, by the way. I'm saying they couldn't, though. They can't do that if drones from another country are monitoring the situation. Because remember, Türkiye isn't willing to go to war with Israel. It's not willing to get into that kinetic fight with Israel, but it's definitely willing to speak ill, to speak out against the Israeli state, to expose Israel and direct international pressure onto the Israeli state. Many will say that's nothing. That's not much from Turkey. That's like trying to wash a car with a toothbrush. Yes, I agree. It's not anywhere near what Turkey could do, analytically speaking, if it wanted. Turkey has a much broader capacity than what it's currently doing. But the question is, do they want to do anything more than the bare minimum? Unless Turkish citizens have a big enough problem with the Turkish state's lack of action, the administration is unlikely to take any radical action. After all, the administration has responsibilities and interests. Their interest is in keeping Turkey a stable and prospering and rising nation. Their interest is not, to put it bluntly, but this is what being an analyst will get you. It lets you see the reality. The Turkish administration's best interest, its priority, is not to jump into a war with a nutter, violent, militarized outpost of the West in the region to fight on behalf of a stateless people a few hundred miles south, the Palestinians. That's not in Turkey's state calculations. So the only reason they would do anything more than what they currently do is if the Turkish population demanded it, forced their hand, said, look, you're my administration, I need you to do more. But if the people don't demand it enough, I'm not calling people to sort of demand it, I'm just giving you the facts. Analytically speaking, if the people in Turkey wanted more action, they would have to call for it. They would have to fight for it. And if they don't, the administration will say, okay, we're good, we're getting away, we're getting by. Can't help the Palestinians without popping something mad off with this rabid dog of a neighbor state. So let's just, steer clear, stay a bit distanced. Anyway, for the unbiased news and analysis without the Western spin, I'm Mahfouz, and I'll see you on the next one.